Hey, what's up guys, it's DarkArmedDuelist, and today we're going to be doing a Qliphort deck profile. So this is a really fun deck that basically summons a bunch of pendulum monsters and then summons one of the most iconic monsters of all time in the form of Towers. Now, Towers is not quite as popular as it used to be because now we have Link monsters and stuff like that to be able to run over it right off the bat, but this card used to be one of the most powerful cards that at even one point this card was banned, which is absolutely insane. This card is at 3 now. So without further ado guys, let's get straight into this. Before we do, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit the bell so you can become part of notification squad, and definitely check out that Patreon down in the description because we have some really cool rewards for you guys, like getting a signed card, getting your name description of every single video, or even getting requested deck profile just like this one every single month. So let's get straight on into this. So first off, we're going to be playing 2 copies of Qliphort Towers. So Qliphort Towers is just a 2 of. It is searchable in the deck, so that's why you just play it as a 2 of. But basically what it does is it cannot be special summoned, or cannot be special summoned. It requires 3 Qliphort or Klee monsters that you tribute this card, and then you normal summon this card, and it's unaffected by the effects of spell effects, trap effects, and the activated effects of monster effects whose original level or rank is lower than this card's current level. And all special summon monsters lose 500 attack and defense, and then once per turn, you can make the opponent send 1 card from their hand or their side of the field to the graveyard, their choice, which is really cool to be able to do with a 3K beat stick. This card is insane. There used to be the only way that you could get past this is with a Kaiju, but before Kaijus came out, this card was pretty much unstoppable. Then we play 1 copy of Qliphort Stealth. Qliphort Stealth, all your Klee monsters make it so you can't special summon monsters except for Klee monsters, which is kind of an interesting different attribute about your Klee monsters, but that's something that you have to keep in mind while you're playing this deck. And then all your Klee monsters can be normal summoned without tributing, but they become level 4 and they go down to 1800 attack. And if this card is normal summoned or set, it is unaffected by the activated effects of any monster whose original level or rank is lower than them. And then when it's tribute summoned by tributing a Klee monster, they gain different effects. Like for instance, this one lets you target a monster on the field and return it to the hand, and then your opponent cannot activate effects in response to this activation. So it's a speed spell for bounce, which is cool. Then we play 3 copies of Qliphort Disc. Qliphort Disc is insane in this deck. Something to keep in mind also is all the scale 1 Qliphort monsters let you have that particular ability that lets you make it so you can't special summon, but they also make all your Klee monsters gain 300 attack, which is really cool. But this one's particular effect is if this card is normal this card is when this card is tribute summoned by tributing a Klee monster, you can special summon 2 Klee monsters from your deck but destroy them during the end phase, which is fine because you can link them away to summon a Qliphort Genius or something like that. Then we play 3 copies of Qliphort Carrier. Qliphort Carrier is a really neat one because what it does is when it's tribute summoned, if it's tributed, you can target 1 monster on the field and return it to the hand, which is pretty good to be able to bounce stuff. And it also has the ability that when its pendulum scale effect is it makes all of your Qliphort monsters gain 300 attack as well, which is a really good effect. As you notice, all of them let you gain 300 attack for the scale 1s, except for the next one, which is Klee Monolith. So Klee Monolith is a really good card in here. This card is absolutely insane. Basically, it's the draw power of the deck, but you can't special summon monsters except for Klee monsters, and then also, if you tribute summoned this turn, you can draw cards equal to the number of Klee monsters that were tributed for the tribute summon this turn. So it can fill up your entire hand if you tribute summon like an Qliphort Towers, which is really, really good to be able to like swarm the board with and just summon the Qliphort Towers. It doesn't have a monster effect. It's just a regular vanilla, which is fine because the spell effect of it being in the pendulum scale is what's important. Then we play 2 copies of Qliphort Shell. Qliphort Shell is really good in this deck. Something that's important about the scale 9s is that it makes all of your opponent's monsters lose 300 attack. And then this one's effect is that if it is normal summon tributing a Klee monster, it can attack second time during each battle phase, and if it does, it inflicts piercing damage, which is a really good effect. 3 copies of Helix. Helix is really good because if it is tributed, if this card is tributed, you get to target a spell or trap on the field and destroy it. And then 3 copies of Scout. Scout is really good because you get to pay 800 and then get to add a Klee monster from your deck to your hand. And it doesn't have a main monster effect, but it does have that effect. It is really, really good because you can just add as many cards as you want from your deck to your hand once per turn, essentially. You get to add any Klee monster from your deck to your hand for the cost of 800. So that's it for the monsters, guys. Let's get into the spells. I don't play Trampolinks, but you can play Trampolinks in here. I just don't feel like you need it. It is good to bounce one of your Klee monsters once you Pendulum Summon, but it's alright. Then we play 3 copies of Forbidden Chalice. So you guys might be looking at this card and being, wait, what? Like I had on some of the Medalche deck profiles that I did recently. Some of you guys were like, why are you playing this card in 2020? This card is old and you can play in permanents. In this build, it's really good. And you guys are going to wonder why. Why is this card good? Let me show you. If you guys are not familiar with Klees, let's say I normal summon a disc to my side of the field, okay? Any Klee monster to my side of the field. But for this reference, we're going to use disc, because disc is my favorite artwork. So we're going to say that we have Klee disc on the field, and it's got 1800 attack on the field. So you have this card, and your opponent attacks into it, and you flip Chalice and target your own disc. It goes down to, it negates its effect. It goes to 2800, and then it gains 400 on top of that, and your opponent attacks into a 3300 beat stick. That is really good. Plus, it can have more utility than that because it can also negate your opponent's monster's effects. So that's why this card is really good in the main deck, and I really like this card in the main deck. It's really, really, really good. And then we play 3 copies of Call by the Grave so we don't have to deal with our opponent's hand traps. 2 copies of Laser Clip. Laser Clip is really good because during your main phase you can normal summon an additional Qliphort, which is really good. I like that additional normal summon outside of the Pendulum scale. 2 copies of Limiter Removal. I bumped this card down from 3 to 2. Yes, they do go to the extra deck, so you don't have to worry about that so much. So you just get them right back. But it's really important to be able to OTK your opponent with Limiter Removal, so you want to play it at 2. 3 copies of Sacrifice. Sacrifice is amazing because it equips to a Klee monster and it gains 300 attack and it can't be destroyed by battle. And the equipped monster can be treated as 2 tributes for the tribute summon of a Klee monster. And if this card is sent from the field to the grave, you get to add a Klee monster from your deck to your hand, which is really good. Now, something if you guys want to know for lore, that is Karen Gorgon, which turns into El Shaddai Grista for the lore of the entire, a Duelist Alliance. Karen Gorgon is like the big card that you have to focus around to know the dual terminal lore. Then we play 3 copies of Summoner's Art, which essentially adds Monolith or our copies of Scout to our hand. So you're essentially playing 6 copies of Scout and 5 copies of Monolith in the deck, which is really, really cool. So that's it for the spells, guys. Let's get into the traps. So the Qliphort used to be a really control-based deck, and still kind of is for me. And that's why I play these cards. And that's 1 copy of Qliphort Change. This card's really hard to pronounce. So Qliphort Change lets you target 3 of your Klee Pendulum monsters and your extra deck and add them to your hand, which is really good to be able to add them to your hand because you can get them back to the hand and then Pendulum summon with them out of the hand so you don't have to use Link Monster Zones, which is important. 1 copy of Recreate. Recreate is an interesting card because if a monster is normal or special summoned, normal or flip summoned, you get to, in a level 4 or lower, you negate its effects until the end phase of the turn. And if a monster is special summoned and it is a level 5 or higher monster, negate its effects until the end phase of the turn, and also banish it when it leaves the field. And if there is no Klee monsters on the field except Recreate, you send this card to the graveyard. It's a really good floodgate to put on the field, and that's why you play it as a 1-of. 1 copy of Skill Drain because it makes all your Qliphort monsters, when they normal summon, immediately go to their original attack points instead of being 1800. So that's something really important to keep in mind. And then a main deck card that I really like in this deck is 3 Crackdown. So Crackdown lets you take an opponent's monster and then you can tribute it to summon one of your monsters. Like if you tribute summon Carrier, you can tribute the opponent's monster that you took and then tribute the Carrier to summon something else, like a copy of your disc or a copy of Stealth or something like that, to be able to get it on the field, which is really important to know because Crackdown just helps with so much plays, because the only time that you're ever going to lose your towers is if your opponent takes it down with a copy of like Borreload, Boral Sword, something like that, or Utopia. I mean, Utopia Double is not even going to affect this card, really. I mean, it will, but it will affect this card, but the only time that they're going to get rid of this is if they beat over it. So you want to have something like Crackdown to take those opponent's monsters at a moment's notice, and then once you do, you don't have to deal with them anymore, and you have control of the monster, and then you contribute it and get rid of it, and then you can use it to summon, like, you can't use it to summon, like, Qliphort Towers, but you can use it to summon one of your other Klee monsters, which is really cool. So that's it for the main deck, guys. Let's get into the extra deck. So something to keep in mind about the extra deck is all your Klee monsters, for example, say this in the Pendulum Scale. You cannot special summon monsters except Klee monsters. That is extremely important to remember, that you can't summon anything for Klee monsters. So everything in the extra deck is utility based and is not a guarantee that you even need it. So that's something to keep in mind that keeps this deck a little bit budget. So first off, we're going to play 2 copies of Qliphort Genius. Qliphort Genius is a definite 2-up. You have to play 2 copies of Qliphort Genius because it takes 2 machine monsters and it cannot. This card, Link Summon, is unaffected by the effect of spell or trap effects and the activated effects of other Link monsters. And then once per turn, you can target 1 face-up card on either player's field except this card, and both of those cards have their effects negated until the end phase of the turn. So you can negate the effects of your Qliphort monsters on your side of the field to make them go up to their original attack points, which is really cool. Then, when 2 monsters are special summoned to the same zone, like if they're summoned to both of its zones, you can add 1 level 5 or higher machine monster from your deck to your hand, which is always going to be your Qliphort Towers, because then you contribute both of them, and then your Genius, and then special summon or normal summon your Qliphort Towers. If you have Monolith, you get to draw 3 at the end phase too. Then for the utility cards, you play Boral Load because you can make it sometimes. It's rare, but you can make it. Boral Sword to OTK, Unicorn to bounce stuff, Phoenix to pop spells and traps, Mrs. Radiant because it makes them all go up by 500. Number 38, Hope Harboring Dragon, Titanic Galaxy, because you do have level 8s in the deck. 1 copy of Tornado Dragon just to be able to pop spells and traps. Baguska because you can go defensive with this card. Number 82, Heartland Draco, because you can make this card first, especially if you crack down your opponent and then take one of their level 4 monsters, normal summon one of your Qliphort monsters, and then overlay with both of them to summon Heartland Draco, then set your scales, then Pendulum Summon out, and then hit them with the Heartland Draco directly. Exciton Knight, in case you need to blow board. 1 copy of Daigusto Emerald. Something about Daigusto Emerald that a lot of people forget is the second effect that you can target 1 non-effect monster in your graveyard and special summon that target, because you have Monolith and Scout in the extra deck or in the deck, so you can immediately special summon them out of the graveyard if they somehow get sent to the graveyard. You can also target 3 monsters in the graveyard and shuffle them into the deck to draw a card, which is kind of cool. 1 copy of number 60. This card comes in super handy because it can double the attack of a monster. That comes in really handy. And then a single copy of Abyss Dweller. Really, I use this card for the draw power mostly. I don't use it for the doubling attack. I use it for the draw power. But the Abyss Dweller comes in handy because it locks down graveyards. So that's it for the deck, guys. I hope you enjoyed this. It's really fun to play around with this deck. I highly recommend that you guys give this deck a try because it's just a fun deck to play around with. Overall, it's a Duelist Alliance era deck, so it's definitely one of my favorite decks because I loved Duelist Alliance. As you guys see, every week a new Shadow deck profile. But anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad, and definitely check out the Patreon down in the description. And little fun fact for you guys, if you didn't know this, but Towers appears on 2 different cards along with Shikinaga. This card is the card that El Shadow Construct rides in the card artwork of Shikinaga. El Shadow Shikinaga. So anyways, guys, this is DarkArmedDuelist. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe. Hit the bell there so you can become part of the notification squad. I'll see you guys in the next video. See you around, guys.